Aloha champions, and welcome to a new series of videos that Mr. Chambers is going to be doing. On normal weeks, these videos will be coming out on Monday and Wednesdays. These are social studies videos. So our current schedule will be Monday and Wednesday social studies, Tuesday, Thursday will be science, and then at least you pick the schedule. You want 30 minutes of math, 30 minutes of reading, and 30 minutes of language arts on Exact Path every week. So you plan out how to best utilize your afternoons for your own success. So in social studies, we're going to be talking about the world around us and how to better understand it through the use of maps and through the use of reading about history. So our first unit for social studies is all about understanding maps and how they impact how we interpret our world. So without further ado, let's get into chapter 1, measuring distance on a map. Okay? Just like in science videos, we have big questions that we want to think about and answer as we're listening and watching these videos. The big question for today is, why do we need different kinds of maps? And you might have seen various different types of maps. You might have an atlas or Google Maps on a phone, and you're able to determine where to go. Well, let's understand what different types of maps there are and what they are potentially used for to help people understand the world around us. How far is it? The place is Boston, Massachusetts. It is about 10 p.m. on the night of April 18th, 1775, and Paul Revere is going around saying, "The British are coming! The British are coming!" right before the Revolutionary War. He steps into a boat and crosses the Charles River. After a short boat ride, Revere lands in Charleston, Massachusetts, not South Carolina, where Mr. Chambers was born, and there he borrows a horse. He's on an important mission, and there is no time to lose. Paul Revere knows he must get to Lexington and warn Samuel Adams and John Hancock. These two American leaders are in danger. British troops are marching to Lexington to arrest them. The American colonies need Adams and Hancock to provide leadership. Paul Revere must get to them first. As he rides, Revere calls out, "The British are coming! The British are coming!" Or as he would have said, "The regulars are coming! The regulars are coming!" He wants to let people know that the British troops, which they refer to as the regulars, are marching out of Boston. The people in the area need to be ready to defend themselves. So here we have a map. And I know how I'm showing this, it's sideways. You have to tilt your head. But here we have him rowing out from Boston to Charleston. And he needs to get all the way to Lexington to talk to John Hancock and Samuel Adams. And he's going to do this all on a horse, riding out through Medford, into Jonas Clark's house, into Lexington, and where he eventually gets arrested by the British and the regulars. Well, on this map, we have a scale. And the scale here says that every inch is 3 miles, or 3 kilometers. We have different units of measuring, and we'll talk a little bit more about kilometers and miles here in this social studies video and in math in a few chapters. So if you measure out, you say, that's about 3 miles, that's about 3 miles, that's about 3 miles, and that's about 3 miles. About 12 miles. And those are rough estimates. I didn't hold up, and you see that his path, this green dotted line, kind of goes in and out. And the more twists and turns you do, the further you have to travel. Okay? So about 11:30 p.m., Revere reaches the town of Medford. He rides on until he gets to Jonas Clark's house near Lexington. Adams and Hancock are waiting there, and Revere warns them to flee, to run away. Next, Revere heads toward the nearby town of Concord, but before he gets there, a British patrol arrests him. but Revere has done his duty. He has already warned Samuel Adams and John Hancock. The men have managed to get away safely. Later on the morning of April 19th, 1775, colonial soldiers and British troops would fight the battles of Lexington and Concord. These battles would mark the beginning of the American Revolutionary War. Today, you can trace Paul Revere's route. All you need is a good map and the directions that he would have followed. As you know, a map is a drawing of a real place. Symbols on the map represent different features of the place. For example, a symbol of a road on a map stands for a real road. Look at the map of Paul Revere's ride on the previous page. In the bottom corner, there's a small box. This is the map key. The map key contains information to help you decode and understand the symbols on the map. In this case, the key tells you that a dotted line stands for the path of Paul Revere's ride. So if we go back to this previous page, our map key, usually in a different color, nice and white, clearly says this is the key. It tells us this green dotted line, the symbol on this map, represents the path that he followed. Okay? Map also gives us other information. It's a real place. Boston, Charleston, Medford, Lexington, they're all real towns that exist today that you can go visit. They're probably a little more built up and modern than they were in 1775, but you can follow this map of this real place using the symbols on here and following the key to understand what's going on in this map. Okay, so quick reminder, 3 vocabulary words. A map is a drawing or picture on a flat piece of paper of a specific place or area on Earth's surface that shows different features. An symbol is an object or picture that stands for something else. And a map key is a table or chart that tells you what the parts of a map mean. The key is usually found in one of the 4 corners of the map. So, moving forward, you know you have a map, you know you have symbols on that map, and you know you have a map key that helps you understand what some of those symbols on the map mean. A few more vocabulary terms before we get into this page. We have our map scale, a measuring tool on a map that shows how distances on the map relate to actual distances on the ground. And I pointed that out the first time we looked at the map of how we can measure the distance that Paul Revere rode. One of the terms used on that scale is a kilometer. A kilometer is a distance of 1,000 meters or 0.62 meters. And we'll talk more about kilometers and meters when we get to chapter 5 in math, but it's 1,000 meters. And a meter is roughly, if you take really big steps, you're stepping about 3 feet or 1 meter. Okay? So, the map also contains a small image that looks like a ruler. This image shows the map scale. A map scale shows you how a distance on the map compares to the actual distance on the ground. The map scale shows that 1.5 inches on the map is equal to 3 miles, or to well over 3 kilometers on the ground. How do we know this? Well, if you take a ruler and place it under the map scale, beginning at the left side of the map scale, measure 1.5 inches, and there's a mark at the same place on the map scale. The mark is labeled 3 miles. To the left is a mark labeled 3 kilometers. You can use this information to figure out distances on a map. For example, what if you wanted to follow Revere's route from Medford to Lexington? How far would you have to walk? Well, first you measure the distance with your ruler. The route measures about 3 inches. The map scale tells you that 1.5 inches on the map equals 3 miles in real distance. 1.5 times 2 equals 3. Therefore, 3 inches on the map equals 6 miles in real life. Now see if you can figure out about how far Paul Revere rode. He began in Charleston, and first he rode to Medford, and then to Jonas Clark's house. Next he rode toward Concord, and he was captured along the way. How far did he ride in total? So if I go back to our map over here, I've already mentioned my estimate for this. and I don't have my ruler in my hands, but I know that about 3 fingers together is approximately 1.5 inches. You might have to use 4 fingers, you might have smaller hands than Mr. Chambers, but I'm using 3 as my rough estimate. And I know it bends and turns, and I'm saying this is 3 miles, 3-ish miles, and maybe another 3 miles. So altogether, I'm saying my estimate is 12 miles, just because it's not a straight line, but by measuring using my fingers or a ruler, I can estimate that it's about there. If I was actually doing cartography or looking at a map, I'd have more specific tools in my hand to help me measure these out. Okay. Finding the distance for the entire ride of Paul Revere is a little tricky. It's hard to measure the distance on the map using a ruler. A ruler is straight, but Revere's route was not. I've already mentioned this. It's not easy to measure a curving, looping route like this. You can measure the distance more easily if you had a string. You place one end of the string on Charleston, next place the string on the map as close as you can to the exact route Revere followed. Then measure the string. You will find that the string is about 6 inches long. Now look back at the map scale. 1.5 inches equals 3 miles. This means that 3 inches would equal 6 miles. How many miles would 6 inches equal? Well, that's about how many miles Paul Revere rode between Charleston and his arrest. Okay, so by laying out a string and tracing the string as close to the route as possible, then holding up the string to the ruler, they measured that it's 6 inches long. 3 inches is 6 miles. We doubled that to 6 inches, and that puts us at approximately 12 miles. All right, but that's just one map and one scale for one event in history. We have hundreds and thousands of maps, and they all use a different scale depending on what they are measuring. So different maps and scales. There are many different kinds of maps that show different kinds of information. A map of a small area can show lots of details. For example, the map of Paul Revere's ride even shows where a house and a church are located. If the map covered a larger area, it would not be so easy to show details such as this. Entire cities appear as small dots on a map of the United States. Some states are smaller than a dime, especially states like Connecticut, Delaware, New Hampshire, Vermont, those smaller New England states on the East Coast. Travelers often use different maps when going from one place to another. That's because they need different information at different points of their trip. Today, when looking at or reading maps, we often use our computers, cell phones, tablets, whatever we have, and we use software applications that do some of the work of map reading for us. You just ask Siri or Alexa, what is the distance between this and this? Still, it is important to be able to read maps because some people, like Mr. Chambers, listen to their phone and they drive off some dirt roads that weren't really roads and you get stuck, and that's why your car is all beat up and damaged, but it's okay. So we're going to go on a journey to test our map reading skills. Suppose that you and your family live in Barstow, California. You want to travel to San Diego to visit the zoo. You might use 2 maps on your trip. First, you might use a map of Southern California to get you to the city of San Diego. Once you reach the city, you might use a map of the city to find the zoo. Look at the maps on pages 8 and 9. The map of San Diego shows one small part of the map of Southern California. It shows a lot of small details, including many smaller streets. Can you find the San Diego Zoo? Find the area marked Balboa Park, and the zoo is inside this very large park in the city of San Diego. You may have noticed a difference between the 2 maps. Their scales are not the same. The map scale for Southern California shows that 1 inch on the map represents 40 miles on the road. The map of San Diego has a scale that 3/4 of an inch is 3 miles. Both maps show distance correctly. Because the areas shown in the two maps differ in size, the map scales are different. In fact, it is true to say that both of these maps will be useful to you if you are traveling from Barstow to San Diego Zoo. The Southern California map will help you get from the town of Barstow to San Diego, and the San Diego map will help you find the zoo once you are in the city of San Diego. Vocabulary term to be mindful of is distance. Distance is how far it is from point A to point B, or one point to another. So here we have the first map that they asked us to look at. This is the southern part of California. And as you can tell here in the bottom corner, or the top corner if you're looking at it vertically, you have the state of California. That's everything in green, Nevada, Arizona. And here we're focused on just this small southern tip. Then we're starting at Barstow, which is along Interstate 15, which can take you to San Diego or Los Angeles, and is halfway between Los Angeles and Las Vegas. And as you follow I-15, Interstate 15, you follow it all the way down till you get to San Diego. That's the most direct route you can take. Or if you want to cut across the 15 to the 10 and take the 1 or the Pacific Coast Highway, you can do that. Many different ways to get to San Diego. But this is 40 miles. So that's 40 miles, another 40 miles, 40 miles, 40 miles. So you're looking at 160 to 200 miles from Barstow to San Diego, or about half a tank of fuel depending on your car. In this smaller image, which brings us in a little bit closer, you see the major interstates, 805, 15, and the 5, all coming to San Diego. And you've got this big gray area that's known as Balboa Park, and the smaller area inside is the San Diego Zoo. And here is a lot smaller of a scale. Instead of traveling from city to city over the course of 40 miles, you have a smaller scale of 3 miles. But our key kind of looks the same. You have your exits, so here might be where you change from one interstate to another. You have your state highways. These are highways that only run in the state of California. You have your interstates, which go through multiple states or in between states. And in green, you have San Diego city limit. So the city of San Diego is everything that is in green, and this gives us a little more detail to help us find the San Diego Zoo. Okay. A few things to point out. Vocabulary. We have direction is where a person or object is facing or moving toward. And we have a compass rose, a symbol on a map that shows the directions from north, south, east, and west. I haven't pointed this out yet, but all of our maps have this compass rose, which tell us to orient the map where north is pointing north, east, south, and west. When you're using a map, one thing all travelers need to know is the direction in which they must travel. If you look at the map titled Southern California Highways, find the symbol with 4 arrows pointing in different directions. This symbol is called the compass rose. It shows you which way north, south, east, and west are, and in which direction you will be traveling from your home in Barstow to San Diego. If you said south, you are ready to travel in the right direction. Okay? So Barstow is kind of more north of San Diego, and you'd be heading south by southwest. It's 9 a.m. when you leave Barstow. Your mother asks, what is the best way to get to San Diego? She hands you the 2 maps, and it's up to you to find the way. First, find Barstow on the map of Southern California. Put your finger there. Then find San Diego and put another finger there. Next, look at the roads connecting the two. What is the shortest way to get from one city to the other? You see that Interstate 15, or I-15, goes all the way from Barstow to San Diego. Interstate highways are a type of road. Interstates are called because they have no crossing traffic, no sharp turns, and no stoplights. They cross over or under other roadways. This means cars can travel faster than on other types of roads. You suggest to your mother to get onto Interstate 15 heading south. After a few hours of driving, you approach San Diego. You put away the map of Southern California and you pull out the San Diego map. Now, looking at the map titled Roadways in San Diego, California, you will see that the green area shows the entire city limits of San Diego. As you enter the city on I-15, you pass signs that show exits from the highway. The exits allow drivers to leave the highway and get onto the smaller roads that crisscross the city. One exit is for Balboa Avenue and another is for Arrow Drive. So if we go back to our maps of San Diego, following the I-15 here, you can either get onto Balboa or Arrow to help you get someplace. Well, San Diego Zoo runs along the State Highway 163. So either Arrow or Balboa can get you to 163, and then you can exit out Balboa Park and drive around until you get to the zoo. Okay, but how do you find these exits on the map? Well, you look for the white circles. You'll see them where I-15 crosses Balboa Avenue and Arrow Drive. Interstate highways do not have exits for every road that they cross over or under. For example, you can see on the map on page 9 that there is no exit from I-15 at El Cajon Boulevard. You tell your mother to keep going south on I-15. Soon she will see signs for Interstate 8. She will follow these signs, leading her on to I-8 heading west. After a few miles on I-8, she will come to the State Highway 163, and she will take this road south directly to San Diego Zoo. Almost all of the roads on the map from Barstow to San Diego are highways. This map shows interstate highways and state highways. Some places have other types of roads and highways too. How many different routes can you find between Barstow and San Diego? So, hopefully you learned something a little bit more about understanding maps and directions and where to go if you're ever handed a map to try to find your way. We will talk more about maps, different types of maps, and how to read these. And I know it was quite a bit of information, so you're probably going to have a little more than our regular amount of questions, but I want you to take your time, do your best, and to answer the questions on Google Classroom. So thank you, stay awesome, and I will talk to you real soon.